Well, I mean, working with realtors, I know it's critical to the lending industry because they're the chief referral sources. What's been the joint or the opportunities to collaborate with agents to further your collective success? I mean, other than meeting and greeting, what are the things that you've seen others do?
I work with a limited amount of agents. So, I don't market the way I don't go to open houses much. I don't do much of that. Although I'm always open to it. I do have a limited amount of people that I have worked with, but that I do work with still. But I believe more in marketing to my own book of business. 17 years, and I've closed a lot of loans every year, a lot. So I just tend to market to these people and attorneys and a lot of, believe it or not, financial advisors. I work with a lot of them, partially because I do speak their lingo, because I am a former financial advisor myself. So I speak their language. So I click pretty well in that circle. That being said, I mean, that's really, I just continue to market to my book, and I continue to talk to just every day. I pop in and I speak to them. Not so much pop in. I'll shoot a text, shoot out an email, and I'm constantly in their face. Even with my marketing, I'm constantly email blasting. Even if my email gets deleted, they see it and then they delete it.
I call that top of mind awareness. And for someone like you, you may not struggle from some of the other things for newer agents or newer loan officers, or even myself. My problem was always I didn't have enough people to speak to. If I had 60 sellers in a room, then I would impress them by my background and my abilities. But I don't have 60 sellers. And even if I did have 60 sellers in a room, it would be a room for that day. I wouldn't be able to carry it around. I wouldn't be able to have immediate and constant access to it. And I also did not have something to provide them. And I think this is big in the real estate industry, both lenders and the realtors, is enough value. And people say enough value if you're good at what you do. And I say, yeah, but you're only good at what you do when you're doing it. If you're boxing or running like you do, you're not boxing or running right now. You're not a great boxer. You're not doing it. So if you're in a deal, yes, you could be good. But when the race is over, you got to wait for the next race. You can't keep running. It's over. I'm using your language. So you're doing it, then you stop doing it. So you're only as good as your last race. So that's true in business too, where I needed something. So I formed this platform, which I'm sharing with people I know, where we're able to give your contacts and your colleagues and your referral partners a chance to promote their business. And as far as I know, it's never been done. There's never been an opportunity for anyone to provide anyone else in the real estate industry or outside the industry with a place and a way to promote your business. So we sliced off a piece of Facebook, which is ours. PlugIntro is ours. When I post on Facebook about something fun or a sunset or a meal, that's cool. People like that. But if you're promoting yourself, you're competing with everyone else. The post is only 2 inches. It requires a lot of reading, and your competition sees it, and you're not special because you didn't give it to anyone at all. And specifically, you didn't reach a target market or even share with people that they may need it. Imagine putting something on social media and they miss it because they're at work or they're sleeping, and then they could have really used it. Well, PlugIntro has the opportunity to create the content you're doing, which is professional and high level in nature, and then you select your audience. So you would be able to reach your intended referral partners like agents or financial planners or lawyers, give them this information. But I think more valuable, which is the dirty little secret, is that those financial planners and lawyers, et cetera, may want to be heard themselves. So you're the one that gave them something of value. That's what you provide, is this opportunity for them. So I'm surprised no one ever did this. The key is the content, where now you want to share your information and your proficiency, but even more so is the point that you now give them something they never had. So really the point of PlugIntro in one phrase is to cultivate reciprocity. And if you're not giving away, in this case, you're going to invite your contacts to see you and hear you. If you're not giving away what I call a digital position, a spot on Facebook a Facebook group such as PlugIntro. It's just a digital position. It's nothing crazy. It's not some sophisticated website. And someone said to me, they sent me an email. They go, how do we sign up for an account? And I said, that's wrong, wrong, wrong. There's no email, there's no sign up, and there's no account. It's just join a Facebook group just like you would for dads or, sports or gardening or skiing, whatever is your interests. So
that's equivalent to, hey, what's the rate? Calling around. Whatever you want.
Right, and that's scary. It's inapplicable. So I just wanted to give you that and let your audience hear that anyone that Jason invites is going to be from him. Jason will allow agents to create their own platforms. And the good news for each of the agents and yourself is you're the exclusive agent, exclusive lender in each of your groups. So you really can go far with that. My groups are specifically, I have 450 people in my audience, and I have about 22 people that are exclusive to their own category: plumbers, electricians, and attorneys and accountants. So it's fun. I mean, especially in this changing market. And last thing I want to say, which is really important, is I think trust is under attack, where you have your trusted referral partners and you said you reach your contacts. Well, all the money and all the technology is going against you because there's Zillow brings human beings to agents. There's the lenders that are online now that the Super Bowl commercial brings people directly from being a consumer to a provider without you. So we really, at this point, because we're not 32 anymore, it's been a while, you have to really give a lot to your referral partners so they are really, really giving referrals and fighting what's going on with the younger crowd, everything on an app.
Yeah, that's that's some tough competition nowadays, but, like I was always a believer that if you just provide and it's very cliche, but if you provide a good service and you really, again, I'm big on education, right? So if you really educate the customer to a high level, then, they tend to come back, and then I don't want what I really, may sound corny, but I don't want like referral partners. I want fans. I want fans, people that are just fans about me,
Ooh, okay.
And that's how people, refer me. That's how people call me. They call me excited to call me. I think that's a pretty good feeling. I don't really talk about that much. I don't, because, people, it's just something that I feel good about. But, fans, just people that are just really excited to work with me. If you do the right thing, it does come back to you. It really does.
It does, and I've been doing this since 1997, and that has worked. And I found, however, yes, you could be a fan, but to me, I didn't want to rely on people's initiatives. I think that at this time where you could really create fans by giving them the education you're talking about, we're giving them here, and you can directly send it to them. You have your intended audience, which are presumably, at least in some part, Facebook friends. So hopefully, we're going to do this series. You're going to give inside information. You pick your referral partners. And, as far as fans, I think that if you're the one lender in your area that's giving agents a place to promote their business, which I think we both agree has never been done. It's like,
they'll love it.
Right. They'll love it. And, the fact is they're so grateful. And then when other people are bothering them and you're the one coming from a position of a place of contribution where you're looking to further their business. I had a lender on the island, and he goes, all we focus on now is how we can grow agents' business. I said, wow, that makes the most sense to me because, like you said, rates are rates. Everyone gives good service. Everyone wants fans. But if you're the one person who's directly responsible for working with an agent to promote their business, I mean, I don't know. It would be a weird person that wouldn't find that attractive and compelling and wanted to continue with relations with you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fun.
Yeah. No,
it's designed to be fun. Where do you see this whole market between sales and prices and approvals going? I heard that they're getting the underwriters are getting a little more stringent with regard to qualifying too.
I don't necessarily agree that underwriters are being more stringent. It's just stuff becomes more glaring now since, there's less volume out there. So every little possible issue is really magnified nowadays. But with the slowdown in terms of the market in itself, there's going to be a slowdown. By far, there's going to be a slowdown. I don't think there's going to be a housing correction. I've read write-ups on that, correction in the market or a deflation in home prices. I think that's absurd. That's not going to happen. I think to some degree, though, they're going to stabilize because there's going to be less buyers on the market, especially during the summer. If people haven't found the house by the summer that they can close on before fall, the market will lose that pool of buyers. Because if you have a family, if you're a husband, wife with kids and this, that, and the other, you're not going to just move your kids. You're not going to change their school mid-school, right? So you're gonna want to get it done during the late spring, going into the summer. So that's gonna really contract them.
Right.
That's gonna.
And we're
that's gonna
really here
reduce
right
some of the
now.
demand
June's
also.
coming. June's almost here. So we're really talking about the month of June is really your last shot for July, August, and get you. You're not going to find people closing on late July to get in by September. It's not going to happen.
Right. I mean, you just start losing pools of buyers. Now, I'm not saying you lose all buyers because, you have, single people that are buying homes and, maybe people that are buying within their zip code. So it's not going to affect the family. That's anecdotal, of course, but you will lose a pool of buyers, and that's going to stabilize the market. I have seen a lot, well, not a lot, over the last, 2 weeks. I've seen, people winning offers, first offer. It's happening more and more now. That people are starting to win. That there's less people at these open houses to some degree, and it's territorial. It's not. It depends on the zip code. Long Island's still real hot. And it always will be hot, I think, for the most part. But you start seeing it in other states. It's just slowing down a bit. Now, that doesn't mean prices of homes are going to contract. I don't want to confuse the two. That just means that it's not going to be this. You're not going to have this ridiculous bidding war on a house. People are coming in 100, 200, 300 over ask.
Yeah, that was crazy, and that's really that's for high price. That was. I was always wondering, since the new year, when did the people think they're ever going to get an appreciation? Never. When do they think? I mean, are they thinking? When did they think? I mean, and how easily could they be upside down by 2023?
I tell people, when people say that they're going to be upside down, you're not buying a house like you're trading, GameStop or anything, right? You're buying a house because you're going to be in that house long term. So if you're gonna be upside down, sooner or later, you're gonna be positive,
Yeah, maybe,
right?
maybe. But
The one thing
you and I,
the one thing they're not making any more of is land. So eventually, your home will be valued higher.
yeah, you hope. And keep in mind, you and I have a very myopic view where anywhere from 17 to 20, you've seen 2 or maybe 3 boom markets. But let me tell you this: if you look online and this has not been America. There were many years, decades, where things were flat, where you'd buy a house in 1968 and sell it in 75 and nothing happened. You would go from 77 to 84 and nothing happened. This is a very late 90s to 2010. You really had like a 98 to when my heyday was like 98 to 2008, when I thought this was the world. Where you make crazy money and everyone's going crazy. I thought this was it. And then we got the bad news that it wasn't it. And then it came back. When did it come back? 2000. It really took about 12. It took about 3 years, a solid 3-4 years before it was back like it was. It took 13 or so for people to get back the equity they lost. 5 years, 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, it took a while. Well, that was, and I was part of that. I bought my house in 2005, and the market eclipsed the end of 2005, and the market eclipsed early 2006. So I was definitely underwater for a good sum of years. But that again, I didn't go into this house thinking I was gonna trade it or anything. I'm like, all right, sooner or later, I'll get my, I'll be cash, I'll be
Mhm.
positive on this. And, that's what real estate
But
is.
that's what our generation experienced. And I think we'll all agree these are in, very, very unknown times.
Mhm.
So it could be very well that the next two or three administrations, I think this appreciation we've had, I'm bearish on it. I think that it happened. It's a period of time in history. I think that it's really not sustainable. I think maybe I'm different than you. I think that we are in for 2020, by 2024, a lot of people, 20-30% of people are going to be upside down.
But again, like if being upside down is, so if you're gonna, so that there are people, again, like they'll, to what I said earlier, they'll come in 200,000-300,000 over, which is causing another issue in itself. It's causing appraisal issues. But
you were saying that possible appraisal issues regarding these high prices.
Yeah, so that's another problem that's being created, that's becoming tough, because if you go in heavy on your offer to try to beat out everybody else, there's a good possibility you may have an appraisal issue. And I tell this to people before they go in with these offers. Now, again, this goes back to education. When I say, hey, look, you might have an appraisal issue, and there's a good chance you're either gonna have to come out of pocket and make up the difference, or you're putting so much money down that it's really not going to matter to some point. So, as long as people understand that going into it, that kind of eases the pain of an appraisal coming in light. That being said, you do have dispute processes where you can dispute the appraisal, but a lot of times that doesn't work, because a house appraises for what it appraises for. Just because you're willing to pay, a house isn't always worth what you're willing to pay for it. People need to,
Sure.
a lot of people need to really understand that.
Look at the Hamptons. You got a crummy house by the beach. It's you put the house upstate New York. It's worth nothing, and over where it is, the location is incredible.
Right. I mean, so it's not always going to be worth what you're willing to pay for it, and people need to understand that going into it. So you are getting a lot of that happening, more so than not, as of late. But I think that's gonna sort itself out, because, to what we spoke of earlier, you're gonna start losing a pool of buyers. You're not gonna have these ridiculous, it's gonna kind of level it off a little.
Mm-hmm. Here's the disconnect, the triangle of lawyer and lender and realtor, where anybody can make any deal at a kitchen table. You guys can finance it. The contract can say that there's the buyer will come up with the difference, and that's true. But I recently heard of a case where the buyer said, "I can't," and now you're very close to the closing date, and what's the seller's choice? And I'm surprised that there have not been more unscrupulous people that make promises, and then the seller has lost the whole market. The house has been known to be in contract. They don't want to go back to this day one. I'm surprised that people, I mean, obviously, the Smith family from USA with 2 kids and a picket fence are not here to do this, but there certainly are investors. And I wonder if, and I know of one case where someone bit off more than they can chew, and they said, "I can't do it." And now what?
Well, that's a big disconnect. That's a
That's a
big
huge
disconnect.
But realtors think lawyers are magical. All a lawyer can do is put in the contract. Ultimately, the parties have to comply or not. So there's one buyer. Maybe they didn't try to beat the system or anything, but they just could not close. I think they had the money for the house, but think about this: then the reserves, and then the closing costs. What if there just isn't enough? The seller has to make a choice: take the lesser money, or have a big fight. And I mean, now what? You're gonna say, well, you defaulted, we're taking your down payment, and then your house is stigmatized, and the realtors are up in arms and uproars. So think about what we're really talking about. So these things are dangerous. We're all hoping, as professionals and the seller, that a buyer may or may not follow through.
I really think that's just a miscue going in. Like, look, if the customer or the buyer rather is going to make an offer on a property, the realtor, has to know, okay, this is going deep,
I don't
before
know
we
about
have an
that.
accepted offer.
I don't know about that. It's been this badge of courage: over ask, over ask, over ask, and then I had told a paralegal, I would say reality creeps in every deal. So Jason's appraiser, you're the bad guy. You send the guy in, and remember Greenspan said irrational exuberance. The banks bring in something normal, or they're reflecting normalcy. Mm-hmm. And in fact, let me see. I talked to an appraiser yesterday. This is not happening now because the things that closed based on the 3% rates support every price today. But this is more of a like October thing when prices go down, and those comps are not the same. So the people who continue this approach of over ask and no appraisal contingency are going to run into problems at the end of the year, because there's still going to be offers that might be accepted, but appraisals will not have the comps that they have now.
You try to, what we try to dampen that blow, so to speak. We have a lot of programs at the bank. Well, let's start with the beginning here. Like, it depends on how much financing you're looking for. If you're going to come in and drop the gauntlet on a high offer and you're max financing, you're playing with fire, for lack of a better phrase.
What do you call that? 80%, or what do you call that? 80 or 90%?
Product specific and loan amount specific. You can go 80. You can go 90. You can go 95%. We can go at Citizens. I could do 90% financing up to a $1.5 million deal. So if you're going 90% financing and you're thin and you're coming in heavy on this offer, trying to knock everybody out of the ballpark, then you better have a contingency plan. If this appraisal comes in short, can you put more money down? Because renegotiating the contract lately is it's crazy. They'll sell a look at you like, what? No, I'm not doing that, because I'll just have somebody else buy it. So, so that's not an option at the moment because it's too big of a seller's market. So a seller's not going to just, negotiate. It's a seller's market. They're not going to do that. Buyer's market, different story. We're not there yet. Will we be there? Probably at some point, but we're not there yet. So you just don't have that option. So you really need to go in understanding what your downside is. So whenever somebody comes to me and they're going heavy on this offer, I tell them, this is where you are. Do you think there's going to be an appraisal issue? Does your agent think there's going to be an appraisal issue? They'll say, maybe. I'm like, all right, so you're going to have to be prepared to make up the difference. Can you make up the difference? Yeah, I could. And, I verified it that they could. If they back out and get cold feet later on, that's a different story. That has nothing to do with, that's just the customer having cold feet, and backing out. Maybe they didn't like the appraisal. Maybe it came in way too short. I don't know. It's too many variables. When you start playing that game where you're trying to knock everybody out, that's a problem.
And that's what's been going on nationwide. And I think it's the realtors, they are representing someone and they're carrying out their wishes, but it could be really, really misaligned with what's going on. And then they have a problem. And I'm not so sure what you said, though, about the sellers is right, because unless you give the buyers right back the down payment and that you're not at all litigious, you might be able to get rid of them, but you also may be stuck with them. You never know.
Yeah, so, look, it depends on, a lot of it depends on the seller and what their expectation is and how they're being advised. There's a lot of advice out there that I hear it. It's not good, so.
Not good. Plus, think about it. The realtor representing someone, and there are realtors listening, may not be as adept as the attorney is. Of course, they're not with the terms of the contract or the number of closings they've handled. If someone like you, and it's really all too easy to talk via text from the kitchen table conversations and then leave it up to you to provide financing. And we're all dependent on an appraiser. I had a deal in the Bronx just now where let me think. The guy offered 890, and I said, well, we want you to waive the appraisal contingency. And he says, no, we can't do that. I said, okay. So this broker in the Bronx said, well, we'll say 890, but we'll see what the appraisal comes in. And I said, so wait a minute. We have a third party in the contract, buyer, seller, and appraiser. We don't even know that person. We're just going to cross our fingers and our toes that it comes in. And I said, what if it comes in way different? Then we renegotiate it. But I always been of this position. Why don't we give a 1 or 2 or 3% margin that the sellers are willing to deal with? But the guy just wanted to wait and see. And I said, well, show me in the contract where it says wait and see. I can't believe that. And then a seller's going to be subject to a guy that's just there for an appraisal fee, and there's 6 others that day. That's how I sell my house. But
I mean, you're getting a lot of creative,
that to me is just punting. That's an agent that's saying anything, and to get lock someone in to the detriment. So it makes the listing agent have to be in a position of really protecting the seller.
This really becomes an issue when you're going max financing. This is when it really starts becoming an issue. If somebody's coming to the table with a lot of money, 30% down, whatever, and that happens a lot. And a lot of these, you could take an appraisal shortfall. If you're coming to the table with 30% down and there's an appraisal shortfall that may directly impact your financing, I mean, that's another conversation altogether, because you're talking about a miss of epic proportions, right? So, but if you get a 5% miss or whatever on the appraisal, 10% miss, I mean, that's, unless you're going for max financing, more times than not, it's not an issue.
You're right, but there are people that these bidding wars, and people get involved, and it's like like an auction, and they just bid way too much. But in auction, you have to buy it, and it's not a piece of art. It's something where you're going to live in.
Well, there's this, there's still this irrational, and this gives me a little bit of 2008, where nobody thought that the real estate market would ever go down, or prior to 2008, that it was going to keep going up. But there are differences, which I don't think will be in that same situation. Just, the quality of customer buying a house now is a lot.
Sure, those are different loans. These are full doc.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just different now. So it shouldn't be that type of contraction. But, again, these bidding wars, they're going to slow down. It takes a while to slow this beast down. It could take another 3-4 months before it really starts before the sellers get the memo. They're like, you know what?
It's going to take time. It's going to take most of this year.
It's
going to take most of this year.
Yeah, let me adjust my expectations here, and let me work with the right people that are that are advising me. So, again, it takes the sellers are usually the last ones to get the proverbial memo.
Yeah,
they just don't.
And that's why it's important to have and I've done this, have an appraiser on a listing, because that really could give someone either a great appraisal to hand to the buyers and say, well, here's what our price is based on. What is your offer based on? And and I know that offers are based on nothing. It's just made up. It's just some crazy instinctive way to offer less than, if it's for apples, they do the same thing. But so in this case, when we had not enough viewings, we went back to the appraiser. He goes, this I'm seeing a trend. You better reduce your price. So think about this. An appraiser is so much better than an agent at knowing what prices are, because they're seeing data all day long and they have the formula. So really a seller's at an advantage to have an authoritative figure like an appraiser to reach, instead of just a boom, 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 down, 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 race to the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, that goes back to what we discussed earlier. It's pure education. It's just, this is my approach. I don't want to go in here and just, give you the hot, I just want to tell you what you want to hear. This is the reality, and this is where you could be. As long as people understand where they could be, and now they can make their decision based on, they had all the info. You kind of, what I'd like to remove is hey, we never talked about that out of the conversation. Hey, sure. I didn't see that coming. I want to remove that because it is a volatile market, and it's got some frenzy. Although the frenzy has tapered a bit, there's still a frenzy, and people will overpay on a frenzy. Unfortunately, if you don't have the wherewithal to withstand, a shortfall on the appraisal.
Yeah, you've looked at, this has been called the tulip craze, like Middle Ages with, I guess it was Holland,
Craze,
right?
yes. I believe that was the
crazy.
first bubble. I believe that was the first bubble. The tulip.
Yeah, there was, and look, not to get too far afield, but how aren't these NFTs the same thing as tulips?
NFTs are just proof that people.
That's another world. That's another.
It's just proof that they'll invest in anything. So it makes no sense. But
right. Well, I mean, Jason, we did a great job today. So I want to thank you. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
The best way to get in touch with me is, you can check me out on Facebook. You can Google my name, Jason Ramirez Mortgage. I will be the first hit. Facebook, or you can Google me. That's usually the primary way to get a hold of me. And